is your writing process like? How do you begin this ritual?
That's a good question, because sometimes I wonder how I manage to
do it
all because I'm a full-time teacher.
Yeah.
I'm a full-time mom, and writing, though, is really important to me. So what I try to do in my regular life is try to create space at least 1 or 2 mornings a week, because for me, even though I'm a night owl, my mind is most fresh and clear and uncluttered in the morning. So I find that's the best time to write. I would think it's the best time to write for anyone, if it's the best time to write for me, because I like being up late, but the later in the day, the more that's going on, and it's easier to be calm and focused. And I want to write from a place of beauty and calmness when I write for children. But luckily, though, because I am a teacher, I have summers that I can do a lot of my writing, and I do a lot during spring break and over the December holidays. So I kind of plan for that, because parenting always comes first, but sometimes I have to prioritize my teaching, and then sometimes, when books are coming out, I want to go visit and go to conferences and help my books go out into the world. So it's really a juggling act.
And so you start in the morning, do you sit down at your computer and just write? Do you have a cup of tea? What is the process itself like for you?
Well, I shouldn't admit it, but caffeine has a central role in my writing process.
Which is understandable.
I try to explain to people that it actually is tied to creativity. It's not just in my imagination.
I agree.
But it is for me, and so my routine definitely starts with coffee. So it's changed by necessity. To be honest, my very favorite place to write has always been cafes, because at home I can take naps, I can clean, I can pick up the phone, I can find a million things to do. But if I'm in a cafe, I have enough stimulation that I won't, I can't take a nap in a cafe, and I've got my good coffee, and then there's bustle around me, which is fine, but I can really do a good job focusing. But the one secret for writing for me is that sometimes there's a lot of ways to support writing, and some of that has to do with reading.
Right.
So if I'm working on a really challenging manuscript, for example, and I maybe hit a little bit of a wall, then I'll take a day and I'll go to a library or a bookstore, sit in the children's section and read other books and be inspired by them, or do a completely different type of writing. So I have a new picture book series coming out in the fall, and it's different with the series because they come out every 6 months. It's a longer piece, so it's been interesting for me to sort of write so fast. But a few weeks ago, I took a week off and I wrote an NPR essay. I started another picture book, and then when I came back to that project, it was with fresh eyes.
Excellent. That sounds good. So you know that our audience is infants through 8-year-olds. So if you could speak to your 8-year-old self, what advice would you give her? What would you tell her?
First of all, I love infants through 8-year-olds, and I think that's why I write for them, because it's sending a message to my past self. And I love the idea that no matter where you are, no matter what challenge you're having, if you're tired, if you're grumpy, if you're not getting along with your sibling, you can open a book and be in a new place. And I think how remarkable for children to get a moment where they can calm down. And it's not a digital moment, it's not a television moment, it's just a moment with a book. So my first piece of advice to my 8-year-old self would be to read, which is what I did. And I became an English teacher. So I think that's more important, and certainly a central feature of my parenting, that for my children, that they are book lovers, and even, they have different tastes, but I found books they relate to, because it's a lifelong friend if you love books, and both my daughters have that. And I would also tell my 8-year-old self to be bold, that it's okay to be different, that it's okay not to fit in to other people's expectations and definitions about about what's a career and what's a life. And I would tell myself to have fun and work hard doing what you love.
Excellent. And I know that this is a really difficult question, but of which book or which project that you've worked on, kind of past or present, are you most proud?
That is a difficult question because they're like, all my books are like my babies in that they gestated, they they were born, they went out in the world, and I supported them. But I suppose in a way there's two books. One would be my very first published children's book, which is My Name is Celia, and I'm proud because it was the first children's book published for both myself and the illustrator, Rafael Lopez, who's become a good friend. And it won these wonderful awards. And so it was a surprise and a delight, and we got to go to the Library of Congress right here in DC for the Americas Award. And he brought his mom, who was from Mexico, and I brought my mom, who was from Peru. And then I brought my little daughters, and he brought his son, and it was amazing. We had 3 generations of Latinos at the Library of Congress, and in my little speech I could mention immigration and things that I'm really passionate about. And it was this moment where it was an honor for my mother. So that was an amazing moment. And then probably the publication of Marisol McDonald doesn't match, because believe it or not, it was the hardest book I ever had to get published. It was rejected so many times because for some reason mentioning being mixed race or even mentioning skin color was considered edgy for a picture book. Even though when you live this experience, it's a part of life. And so I feel like I didn't give up, and I could have significantly changed my character, Marisol, to meet certain expectations for publishers, and I didn't.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, so I feel really good, and it ended up where it was meant to be, with a small publisher that's no longer with us, Children's Book Press, which was then so thankfully bought by Lee and Low. So it ended up with a daring press committed, 2 daring presses committed to multicultural children's books. And then it did really well, and wherever I go, Marisol McDonald is like, speaks to kids, because there's so few books about multiracial families. So.
Well, thank you. I want you to also tell us what you're currently working on. You mentioned it, but could you tell us a little bit more so we know what to go out and buy?
Well, that sounds good. Well, I have 2 upcoming projects. Both are super exciting. One is my first book with David Diaz, who's the only Latino to ever win the Caldecott Medal. And it's called Maya's Blanket, La Manta de Maya. And the other project I'm super excited about is a new territory. And it's a chapter book series from Little Brown. It's coming out this November 2015, and the first book is called Lola Levine is Not Mean. And it's about a really fierce little girl that we might have once called a tomboy, but I don't even think that's a useful term. But she loves soccer and she's really fierce, but she accidentally hurts someone playing soccer, and then everyone starts calling her mean Lola Levine, and we find out how she responds. And she's also mixed race. And the second book in the Lola series is coming out in winter, Lola Levine, Drama Queen.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. We look forward to, getting all of the books and the new ones as well. And just thank you for spending time with us.
Oh, it's a pleasure, and thank you for doing what you do. We know we need diverse books.
We definitely do.